This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Gabriella Power. Thank you for joining us. Well, the Democrats' narrative has been shattered. Newly released files show that Donald Trump allegedly blew the whistle on Jeffrey Epstein 2 decades ago, and now the mainstream media has been forced to report that according to these newly released files, Donald Trump called up police in Palm Beach back in 2006, also telling them to go after Ghislaine Maxwell, describing her as evil. A former Palm Beach police chief who investigated Epstein in the mid-2000s reportedly told the FBI that Trump picked up the phone and said, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." Now, Democrats, they're quiet about this development today, and why is that? We're going to cross to Florida for more on this in just a moment, but also coming up on the show, a massive development in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. The FBI releasing chilling surveillance photos and videos appearing to show a person wearing a mask and a backpack on the porch of Nancy Guthrie's Arizona home. Very eerie. Later on, we have media meltdowns. Jasmine Crockett goes on a lefty podcast declaring that she's an intellect after wrongly accusing Republican Lee Zeldin of taking money from Jeffrey Epstein. Also, J.K. Rowling joins mounting calls for Keir Starmer to resign. Later in the show, we'll be crossing to London for the details. I have a special message here for my American viewers. It may be a new year, but for people out there buried in debt, it hardly means a fresh start. Whether you're struggling with credit cards, personal loans or medical bills, you'll want to hear about today's sponsor. PDS Debt has an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, nearly 5 stars on Trustpilot and thousands of positive real-life reviews. PDS actually works to understand your unique financial situation and craft a personalised relief plan tailored to your needs. Don't let another month of interest pile up. Take back control in 30 seconds. Get your free personalised assessment and the best option for you at pdsdebt.com/power. That's pdsdebt.com/power. Joining us now from Florida is independent journalist Brittany Hopper. Brittany, thank you so much for your time. Huge development in the search for Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie. The FBI posting chilling photos and videos to social media showing a masked person wearing a backpack on the porch of Nancy Guthrie's home in Arizona. Brittany, this search, it's now well into its second week, and everyone around the world is desperately hoping that we can get some answers here.
So I think that this story has captivated our nation as well as around the world because of how bizarre it is. There's so many questions to this story. And now the recent, story that's coming out in terms of the video that we're seeing of the possible suspects, the ransom, the $6 million in Bitcoin. I mean, it just keeps getting more and more bizarre. It really seems to be that this was potentially, in my opinion, an inside job. There's just too much going on that it seems like the suspect really knew who to ask for when it comes to the ransom money. I also heard today that they were going door to door in the neighborhood trying to search for answers. This is just such a bizarre story. My heart goes out to the family, and God willing, this poor woman is safe and healthy and returned.
Absolutely. We know that Savannah Guthrie has reacted to those images on social media, posting someone out there recognises this person. We believe that she is still out there. Bring her home. As you say, it's captivated the world. We are all thinking and praying of that family. Brittany, I want to talk to you about these newly released files that showed that Donald Trump actually blew the whistle on Jeffrey Epstein 2 decades ago. He reportedly called police in Palm Beach back in 2006, also telling them to go after Ghislaine Maxwell, describing her as evil. A former Palm Beach police chief who investigated Epstein in the mid-2000s told the FBI that Trump picked up the phone and said, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." Look, my read on this, Brittany, it just seems like another bubble has been burst for the Democrats, because they became very interested in this story as soon as Donald Trump was back in office, even though the Democrats could have released these files but refused to. For years, they could have just used Joe Biden's auto pen to get these files out.
I don't even know if interested is the right word. I think the Democrats, the liberals, and mainstream media became obsessed with the potential of Trump and Epstein files. Look, there's millions of pages with the Epstein files, and I believe that we are hearing and reading about more Democrats than Republicans that were down on that island. But this breakthrough that just came out, I mean, what does it say about the narrative? Because it really goes against what the liberals and Democrats, their narrative and mainstream media has been saying all along. So it will be interesting to me as a TV journalist and an independent journalist and someone who was on mainstream media, CBS News for 15 years. It will be really interesting to me to see how the mainstream media moves forward with this information. My guess is it's going to be the headline. They're going to bury it in a way, so to speak, and we'll only see a selective few who really be talking about this. But this needs to be talked about. This is a huge breakthrough within this entire everything, that the whole Epstein files and who was down there and who played what part in it. The fact that this is coming out, I think, is a huge win for Trump.
Absolutely, I agree. And also it comes after Trump-obsessed author Michael Wolff claimed that Epstein suspected that Donald Trump was the one that reported him to authorities. So we will be staying on this development. I'm not sure if other outlets will do the same. I want to talk about more fraud uncovered in Gavin Newsom's California, Brittany, more than $8.6 billion. The California Post discovered this address in San Diego where 14 businesses were registered in 2020 that got millions of dollars in COVID-era loans. So SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler announced that the Small Business Administration has suspended more than 100,000 California borrowers suspected of committing this fraud during the pandemic. Brittany, it's really a huge scandal, but not shocking or surprising anymore.
No, not surprised at all. So during this time, I was living in California, where I was born and raised, and I was covering the COVID pandemic in the state of California. There was so much cover up even then when I was, as a TV journalist, covering this COVID-19. Just off the top of my head, thinking about how when I had to wear a mask, of course, because that was what we had to do. And I remember wearing an American flag mask and told to not wear an American flag mask. Everything about how COVID-19, the pandemic, was handled in this state was fraudulent. So I'm not shocked or surprised by this. I'm shocked that it took this long. And I think that we're going to hear more coming out in the years ahead.
Hey, Brittany, I want to talk to you about what's happening here in Australia. While the president of Israel, Isaac Herzog, has been here in Australia to mourn and honour the victims of the Bondi terror attack, activists have taken to the streets in protest, including former Australian of the Year Grace Tame. She has been chanting from Gadigal to Gaza, globalise the Intifada at an anti-Israel protest. Listen to this. From Gadigal to Gaza, globalise the Intifada. So while Grace Tame was chanting this, calling, of course, for the elimination of the State of Israel, many members of the Jewish community were locked inside this speaking address from Israeli President Isaac Herzog because of these violent protests that were going on outside. Brittany, do you have a message for Grace Tame?
Sure. I mean, such a cute girl, but what a foul thing to say, and to be chanting and to use her platform to basically say to wipe out a country that leads the world in cancer research, in technological advancements, in medical research, in terms of medical devices, saving so many lives around the world. Israel is leading in the world in these components that I just said, helping so many people around the world. Why do you want it wiped off from the planet? Why? Because that's basically what this phrase means. I think that instead of bashing her and saying it's wrong to say, why not go to Israel? Why not do a little education? Educate yourself. Go see the history. Go meet the people. That's what I feel the president of Israel should really be inviting her and inviting a lot of these people who are anti-Semitic and want to claim Israel should be wiped off the earth.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. Brittany Hopper, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you watch my reporting, you know I cover protests, political theatre and media meltdowns. And what always strikes me is how disconnected the slogans are from real life. While activists shout ideology, ordinary people face rising prices, high taxes and governments determined to make everything harder. We're told to trust the experts, trust media narratives, trust that massive spending and endless debt will make us better off. But history and common sense say otherwise. When leadership is weak and policy reckless, everyday people pay the price. That's why I believe in owning something real, physical gold and silver from American Hartford Gold, tangible assets that hold value through inflation and instability. With thousands of five-star reviews, they deliver gold and silver to your door or store securely in a tax-advantaged gold IRA. And right now, when you call and mention that I sent you, you could get up to $20,000 in free silver with your first purchase. Call 855-802-5199 or text POWER to 65532. That's 855-802-5199 or text POWER to 65532 or click the link in the video description. Because when politics turns into performance and the media loses the plot, it's worth protecting something that actually holds up in the chaos and outlasts all the trends. It's time for Media Meltdowns. And remember when Jasmine Crockett wrongly accused Lee Zeldin of taking money from Jeffrey Epstein, even though he did not take money from the convicted sex offender, but someone who unfortunately has the same name? Here is that moment.
Who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly. Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio.
Well, Jasmine Crockett is sticking by that bright move of hers, admitting that she has no issue with lying from the House floor.
Well, when I see the moment on the House where you seem to accuse Republican Lee Zeldin of taking money from Jeffrey Epstein, but it seemed like if it was not the same person, I wonder, is there times in which the rhetoric goes too far? Are there times in which you should say, maybe I messed that one up?
No, not in this environment. I don't. I think that, we are really in uncharted territory.
So I hear your argument that you're reflecting the urgency necessary. And so that's why you won't give an inch.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
We will play more of that interview for you in a moment. But this comes after her car crash interview with CNN defending her comments.
I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein, just so that people understand when you make a donation, your picture is not there. And because they decided to spring this on us in real time, I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen because I knew that they didn't even try to go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled. And that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies. Because it was not the same one, that's fine. But when Lee Zeldin had something to say, all he had to say was it was a different Jeffrey Epstein. He admitted that he did receive donations from a Jeffrey Epstein, so at least I wasn't trying to mislead people.
Not trying to mislead people at all. Just wild. So Jasmine Crockett has now sat down with Today Explained Vox podcast, and the host described her as a star, known for her sharp attacks against Donald Trump.
Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is a bona fide political star. In just 2 terms here in Washington, D.C., as a member of the House of Representatives, she's turned herself into a national name, known for her sharp attacks against President Trump, her Republican colleagues, and even some Democrats.
Let's just look at some of those sharp attacks.
Y'all, this is literally potentially putting us into an international crisis. We may be heading towards the next world war because we have a president that wants to pal around with Putin and wants to do everything to make him feel good, including lying about who invaded who.
So sharp. And that is exactly how Jasmine Crockett describes herself.
I've always been someone who has been intellectual. I was top 10% of my class at Texas Southern my first year in law school. I was always very much kind of digging in and wanted to understand. I was always the person that would bring the receipts and wouldn't back down. So, you know,
You were always clapping back too?
I was always, yeah, there was always a pushback. If I feel like I am right on something, I've always been very clear about that.
Joining us now is former president of the Victorian Liberal Party and Sky News contributor Michael Kroger. Michael, thank you so much for your time. So Jasmine Crockett, she's been described as a star there, sharply going after Donald Trump. It's pretty funny listening to her on that podcast claiming that she's a genius, Michael. What would you have to say about that?
Oh, yeah, she's an intellectual. She's up there with Albert Einstein. I mean, she's right up. She's right up there. She says so herself, Gabriella. There's no doubt about her incredible intellect. You can it's seething through all of the interviews she gives, her depth. She's up there with Jordan Peterson and Douglas Murray. She's right up there. Look, I think, Jasmine, I've got to be honest with her. Someone should tell her this. The university she went to, Texas Southern, she's got a law degree. It's ranked about the 400th top university in America, and the law school at Texas Southern is ranked about the 190th top law school in America. That's not, it's not Oxford, Jasmine, it's not Cambridge. If you have to declare yourself an intellectual, you surely are not. I think she's an embarrassment to the Democratic Party. One of these look at me Democrats who's got nothing of real substance to say except to hone in on the issue of the day, criticising Donald Trump, blah, blah. Let's hope the good people of Texas can see through her and we don't send another vacuous Democrat to the American Senate.
Well, looking ahead, obviously a lot can change between now and 2028, but I want to get your sense of what we will be getting in the next US election as things stand right now. I mean, we've just heard from Jasmine Crockett. Last week, Kamala Harris relaunched her social media account, which is a disaster. Even CNN labelled it cringe. Vogue is writing puff pieces on Gavin Newsom, calling him handsome. What are we in for, Michael?
Has Kamala Harris been to the border yet? That's what I want to know. Or been to Europe? I'm still waiting to hear on that. It all depends, in my view, Gabriella, on the economy. If the economy is strong, unemployment's down, wages growth is up, that's the number one issue in the Western world today in terms of, the majority of voter sentiment. If the American economy is strong, Trump will do much better in the midterms than expected, although historically, as we know, the incumbent president, Democrat or Republican, does badly in the midterms. So it depends very much on the state of the economy in October, November this year. And again, going into the 28 election, whether it's Vance or Rubio, again, it depends very much on the state of the American economy. Trump is seen to have succeeded with tariffs and all these economic changes, the deregulation, the cutting electricity prices, petrol prices, the cost of eggs. If he's seen to make life easy for the average American, then Vance or Rubio will win the presidency. But if not, if America is seen to be, having not done well, despite all these international triumphs, then it'd be hard to see Gavin Newsom not doing well, despite the fact that California is, as you said, a total basket case. It would be hard to see him not doing well.
What's happening with the tensions between the US and Iran? Donald Trump has claimed that Israel and Iran both want to make a deal. Here he is being asked by Fox News whether a deal with Iran would ever really stick.
Do you think a deal with Iran with this current regime, would ever really stick?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I know one thing. They want to make a deal. They wouldn't talk to anybody else, but they're talking to me. But, you know, it's a good question. A lot of people say no. And I would say that I'd rather make a deal. It's got to be a good deal. No nuclear weapons, no missiles, no this, no that, all the different things that you want. But some people worry that they've been very dishonest with us over the years, right? Very dishonest. Obama and Biden, what they did in terms of creating a monster with Iran was terrible. That Iran nuclear deal was one of the dumbest deals I've ever seen.
Michael Trump's reportedly considering sending more warships to Iran. Of course, Netanyahu's on his way to the White House for talks. What's going to happen here?
So, Gabriella, he's going to take out the Iranian leadership. I personally can't believe, given everything that's happened in the Middle East, given everything Trump's done on the international stage, I cannot believe this president of the United States is going to make a deal with the Iranian regime. He knows, as Rubio knows, as Vance knows, that as soon as Trump and the Republicans leave office, any deal they do with the Iranians will be forgotten and extinguished by the Iranians. They don't fear Kamala Harris. They don't fear Gavin Newsom. They don't fear Jasmine Crockett. Any deal with Iran will last till 2028 and that'll be over. So I can't believe that he's going to leave 90 million Iranians hanging by a thread. This regime have like Hamas in Gaza, these people have kept, you know, the Iranian people as prisoners ever since the Iranian Revolution in the late 1970s. I think he's playing for time. I think he's getting all his military assets in place. I think he's putting missile defence systems in the countries that are amongst his Arab allies who may not have had those defence systems in place. And I think most importantly, he's waiting for General Rowling to tell him how any bombing of Iran will bring about regime change. There's no point bombing Iran if you don't bring about regime change. I think Trump has firmly fixed in his mind to get rid of this regime. Of course, they cannot be trusted. Once he's fixed up the Iranian regime, then we can look forward, Gabriella, to President Marco Rubio of Cuba by the end of the year, hopefully.
Well, we'll be watching it very closely. I want to get your thoughts on what's happening in the UK before we talk about Australia. Of course, Keir Starmer is under more and more pressure to resign. He's been in the top job for just 18 months and he's been in the firing line over his decision to hire Peter Mandelson as the UK's ambassador to the US, despite being warned about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. What's your assessment of this and how much longer does Starmer have left?
Well, not that much longer, but they've got to agree on a challenger. There's 5 or 6, potential candidates for Angela Rayner down in the list of people that want to take over. I think what we can say with certainty is this: Starmer's got zero chance of winning the 28 election. He won't get re-elected under any circumstances. Secondly, most politicians who fight to get to the top like he has don't want to give it away easily. He wants them to come and get him. He doesn't respect the people around him. He thinks he won the election, they didn't. Why would he stand down for people he considers to be inferior to him? So I think he'll fight on. Sooner or later, the Labor Party in Britain will tap him on the shoulder, try and get him to go. If he doesn't, he'll be defeated in a ballot. You've even got the Scottish Labor leader already calling on to stand down. Those calls will grow louder. He's been a very poor British Prime Minister, so I think he's a goner. How long it'll be, who knows? When the challengers have worked out who the challenger is, then you'll have a much better idea. But it's good night, Keir Starmer.
Michael, let's talk about what's happening here in Australia with the Liberal Party. This has been dragging on for such a long time. It's now expected that Angus Taylor will be quitting the front bench sometime today. It's interesting that the latest Sky News Pulse survey conducted by YouGov found that more than half of voters remain unsure who should lead the Liberal Party. So when asked who would be the best person to lead the Liberal Party, most people endorsed Andrew Hastie at 15% overall. That doesn't surprise me. I think he cuts through, but still that's only 15% of people. Susan Ley received just 10% of overall support, followed by Angus Taylor at 8%. 60% of voters did not know who was best placed to give the Liberal Party the best chance of forming government. You know, voters are so angry and so bored of this circus. I really wonder what the future of the Liberal Party looks like. I think it needs more than a new leader. At the same time, Michael, of course, this Sky News poll found that One Nation has secured 34% primary vote among working class voters. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Pauline Hanson certainly has the momentum behind her. What's going to happen on Friday? Are we really going to see some big turnaround with a new leader?
I don't know yet, but I think you'll find this matter will be resolved one way or the other by the end of the week. Most people in the Liberal Party want this matter resolved. They don't, they look at the polls and realise that none of this turmoil is doing us any good. The turmoil with the National Party has been disastrous for the coalition, which is why the vote for the collective parties is less than 20%. So it'll be resolved in the next couple of days, one way or the other, and then the party's got to get back to its core brand equity, which is talking about tax and economics. And as you say, having a look at that extraordinary number for One Nation. This represents the target audience for the Liberal Party. It's the working class Australians. It's middle Australia. It's working Australians. These are the people that feel the elites do them in every day, that the elites work together. They've got all the benefits, high salaries, tax advantages, government cars, handouts, freebies, subsidies, and that the working people are carrying the elites. And the universities, highly paid academics, highly paid public servants, et cetera, whilst a working family with a house and a mortgage and a couple of kids are doing it tough. That's how the electorate is thinking at the minute, which is why One Nation's vote is one of the reasons its vote is so high. It's also high, of course, because people in Australia are now fed up with mass migration into the country. They're seeing what's happening around the world. So it doesn't surprise me. The times, the economic and political times suit One Nation, and that's why their vote is so high. But for as far as we're concerned, let's hope we can get some clear air by Friday, because the coalition needs to get back to work to build its primary vote back into the 30s, and hopefully by the next election into the 40s.
It's got a lot of work to do to get there. Do you really think you could get there?
Within the next 2 years, it's hard to see you getting into the 40s. But just as votes can collapse, they can recover quickly. I mean, One Nation's vote has gone from 6% at the May election, which is 9 months ago. It's gone from 6 to 28 primary vote. In 9 months that's happened.
But Pauline Hanson's been consistent for decades.
She has, but consistently low votes too. I mean, her polling has been 6% or less for most of the last 30 years. There have been times in Queensland early on, other times where it's gone beyond 10. But historically, the One Nation vote has been sub 10 for 30 years. Now it's blown to 28. The major parties have got to try and work out why. Not chase One Nation, but just reflect One Nation's concerns. That's why their vote is so high. You are an idiot. You're a political idiot if you look at that vote and dismiss it. It's now constant in every one of these polls. High 20s vote for One Nation. Well, if you don't look at that and think what's going on here, then you've learned nothing from history.
Yeah, well, I don't see that changing for One Nation anytime soon. We have to leave it there. Former President of the Victorian Liberal Party and Sky News contributor Michael Kroger, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure, Gab.
Look, every country has its healthcare problems, but America's Medicare system is on another level. Millions of seniors end up on the wrong plan every year. They either overpay, lose access to their doctors, or both. Not because they did anything wrong, but because the system is designed to confuse them. And it gets worse. A lot of Medicare advisors are really just salespeople pushing whichever plan pays them the biggest commission. That's why I want to tell all of my American Power Hour viewers about Chapter. Chapter doesn't work for big insurance or the government. They're independent. In fact, they are the only advisor that compares every Medicare plan nationwide to find one that actually fits your needs. So on average, that saves people about $1,100 a year. Just have a read of the testimonials. One woman, Jill, said that Chapter showed her better options that didn't even appear on the Medicare.gov website. That is how broken the system is and how valuable it is to have someone truly on your side. So if you're looking for Medicare guidance, don't go it alone. Call the number below to speak with Chapter and get clear, unbiased guidance on your Medicare options. Let's go to London now. Joining us is commentator Josh Rom. Josh, a lot happening over in London. Your Prime Minister doesn't seem to have much time at all. Author J.K. Rowling is among plenty of others demanding that Keir Starmer is removed as Prime Minister. She wrote, from his newfound concern for victims of Mandelson's bestie to whether women can have penises and his U-turn on the Rotherham grooming gangs inquiry. Starmer out. Josh, bring us the latest from the UK. Will Starmer be gone by the end of the week?
Well, it seems not. And can I just say, first and foremost, good evening from London. I'm slightly concerned because I find myself agreeing with Diane Abbott this week and her assessment of the crisis, which is very unusual and disconcerting to me. But her assessment is bang on. I think at the moment, Sir Keir Starmer is trying to evoke a sense of stability. He has vowed to fight on. He's vowed to keep on working. He said in these words, "I will not walk away." However, I think he is one of the most unpopular prime ministers in history at the moment, according to opinion polls. I think the consensus is although he's managed to hold on, his cabinet all have come out in support of him temporarily, I should add. And then we've got backbenchers such as Angela Rayner coming out in support of him, despite the fact that Angela Rayner's webpage for new leader of the Labour Party kind of made a surprise appearance very briefly, or should I say surprise, quote unquote, appearance. So he seems to be holding on to, at least superficially, the support of his party, because I think none of them want the poison chalice. Now, there is going to be a by-election coming up. And that could potentially be very punishing for Labour. So I think the Labour Party, the parliamentary party, wants to see how they do there. Then we've also got the kind of what's been dubbed as the midterm elections, the local elections coming up in May, especially in Scotland and Wales, which are due to be very punishing for Labour. So we're kind of in this position where Sir Keir Starmer, he's holding on for the time being by the skin of his teeth, because no one from his party wants to step up and have the poison chalice just yet. But I highly doubt post-May, if the elections results really are as bad for Labour, I doubt that Sir Keir Starmer will get his wish and be the next Labour leader to lead that party into the next general election.
Yeah, the clock is ticking, that is for sure. Let's talk about the royal news. King Charles saying that he'll support police in their investigation into Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, his brother, over those links with Jeffrey Epstein. The King, of course, has been under a lot of pressure, Josh. What's going to happen here?
Well, there's been pressure from a lot of things. Actually, I want to treat this a little bit as confession time, because you probably may have seen video clips of the King being heckled in walkabouts. And usually this is a good kind of way to measure public appearance about the public opinion about certain royal scandals, whatever. But what I would say to when we look at footage like that, I want to take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt, a little bit of skepticism. Because I also know that there are fringe Republican organizations that are effectively planting hecklers in those specific walkabout places in order to purposely distort the narrative and create trouble and kind of attempt to stir up Republicanism sentiment. And we see this actually because a lot of the crowds who do show up to see the King on these walkabouts are actually big monarchists, big royalists that are actually delighted to see the King and Queen, and actually are the same ones saying shut up or boo or get out the way, go home, because they want to see the King in a nice environment. So I will say, treat some of the walkabout footage with a little bit of skepticism. However, there has been pressure for the royal family to do more when it comes to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And this week I've been asking a few commentators on Twitter, what more can the royals do? There is no HRH title, no patronages, no royal duties, no public role. He was practically evicted from his huge mansion. He's now only living a very quiet life away from the public eye that's going to be privately funded by his brother. But now the King is also saying, bearing in mind there has been an extremely pointed shift this week when it comes to the statements. And the King said in the statement, or effectively the palace have said, the King has made made clear in words and through unprecedented actions. Again, emphasizing the unprecedented actions, taking the very title of Prince away from Andrew, the title that was effectively his birthright, away from him, and saying his profound concern at allegations that which continue to come to light in respect of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And effectively saying, yes, they'll cooperate with the police, Thames Valley Police, again, investigating Andrew due to a complaint made by a Republican organisation, a specific Republican organisation trying to stir up trouble for the royal family there. But this is an unprecedented shift, even though he didn't necessarily ever mention the word Epstein explicitly by name in the statement. We know the attitude of the palace now is very explicit towards Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and that is, you are now on your own. You are no longer protected by the royal family. You are no longer protected by Buckingham Palace. You have no role in the firm. You have no role in the institution. If it comes to extradition, we are not going to stand in the way. And that is effectively the message that the palace is wanting to evoke now, because as much as it is, the public is disgusted by Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, they are. The palace, I would say, yes, there has been a certain lack of transparency throughout the process, and questions are being asked, who knew what, when, even questioning the late Queen. Unfortunately, well, we know she has a bit of a blind spot when it came to her favourite son. But the palace now is basically through, as they're trying to emphasise, through these statements, through these quote unquote unprecedented actions, that there is a zero tolerance approach when it comes to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor now.
And do you think we're going to hear more from Princess Catherine and Prince William? Of course, they released that statement saying that they're deeply concerned by the revelations and their thoughts are with the victims, Josh.
Well, what I found very interesting is they are, of course, undergoing a state visit to Saudi Arabia now. So they didn't want anything to overshadow or be in the background of this visit. So they were very proactive in releasing this statement first before His Majesty the King. And usually, of course, when it comes to stuff like this, usually you would think the king is the one to. The king obviously would take precedent as the more senior member of the royal family, as the head of the institution, as the head of the firm. But actually, I would say, look at Prince William and Prince Catherine. They're the ones actively taking the proactive approach. They're the ones that are saying, we are concerned about the continuing revelations, and the thoughts remain with the victims. And actually, that statement, it was 2 or 3 lines. It was short. I don't want to say sweet, because there's nothing sweet about this crisis. This is, I would say, the biggest crisis facing the royal family since Charles and Diana back in the 90s, and definitely since the abdication back in 1936. However, the Prince and Princess of Wales are very keen to kind of position themselves, so it seems, through their actions, as we are the future. The king is doing what he wants to do, and they're funding Andrew through private means. That's fine. And again, they kind of have no choice there. You know, Andrew, he can't exactly earn money now. What company is going to hire him? It's all well and good saying, and I've said this on the programme before, get a job. But he can't do that. There is no feasible possibility. So, of course, he's kind of the responsibility in terms of at least housing. And if the royal family wants to keep him away from public life, then they need to make sure those procedures are effectively put in place. But the Prince and Princess of Wales being very proactive with their statement, especially before their state visit. And actually, a lot of people in the country at the moment, they're kind of viewing the king, I would say, with a little bit of apathy. But I think people know that the Prince and Princess of Wales are very much the future of the monarchy. And I think I can tell from their actions that Prince William and Princess Catherine, they definitely have that at the forefront of their mind.
Josh Rom, all the way from London, thank you so much for joining us, bringing us the latest. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Gabriella.
And that is Power Hour. Thank you for your company. We'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.